Oh, he did it. He's back. That's right. He's back. I told you guys earlier I would come back, and I did. I did not disappoint. No, I didn't lie to you. No, I would never lie to you. I'm here. We're back. I had no intentions of live streaming today, but you know what? I should really live stream every day. I mean, it's not like I got any kids. Like, why not? And for those who don't know, I don't know if you guys know this, but I really, really love making YouTube videos. I love it. I don't know why, but I do. I love live streaming. I love making videos. I love giving my takes and thoughts on things. And I'm very thankful and blessed that we got a little bit of an audience, you know? So earlier, your boy went live accidentally. Some of you guys were in there, noticed it. That was funny. And I told you guys that I would come back. I had to. I said I'd come back, and I did. So I upheld my end of the bargain. And I actually do have something fun and educational that we can do today. I figured out, I'm like, what am I going to talk about today? Because normally when I do live streams, I like to prepare for them. Didn't do that today. Hey, we got some people in here. Hey. Man, you guys are so dope. Appreciate the support. Hey, Echoes, good to see you again. Hey, Just Snooping, good to see you, man. Gil, sup? What's up, Gil? You kept your word. I did keep my word. And we actually have a fun video. Somebody said I have kids. Yeah, when I have kids, it's over with. I already know. So I gotta get it all out now while I can. 2 of them. Congrats on the 2 kids. That's awesome. And congrats to you for having 2 kids and not 1. Making sure that your other child has a companion. Somebody else said, hi, Gil, LOL. Everybody knows Gil. Gil the goat. Gil the goat. All right, we'll give it a few minutes. If anybody wants to, you know what? First few minutes is the Q&A section. Ha ha. Now that's funny. That is so funny. Is that my brother in here? Hey, that's dope. My brother's in here. Shout out to my brother, man. My brother's in here watching the stream. I did not know that you watch my live streams. I did not know that, sir. I did not know that. You know what? Your name kind of gives it away, though. I should have known by the name. But hey, shout out to my brother. My brother's in here. That's dope. That's really dope. So now we have 2 family members that watch your boy, my brother and my uncle. If you guys remember the last live stream I did, my uncle popped in. And he was like, hey, guys, uncle here. That's so funny. That is so funny. I would text you, but I'm using my phone, brother. I'm not going to say your name. I guess I could, but yeah, everybody say hi to my brother. My brother's in here. Say hi. That's so funny. Let me see something. Family stream. Is my brother and his wife in here? I think my brother and his wife might be in here. Shout out to y'all. That's funny. I think they both might be in here, guys. I didn't even know they watched my channel. They're silent viewers. I mean, I did. He told me, but I didn't know he watched the live stream. He's a silent viewer. That's dope. What time are we at? We're at 4 minutes. I got a good hour in me until dinner starts. Got a good hour until dinner. A good old hour. I'm going to tell you guys what we're going to be reacting to. Matter of fact, let me remove this. I don't want you guys to see it yet. Yeah, family support, right? Yeah, looks like we got the full. Looks like we got my brother and his wife in here. We got the full family support up in here. That's dope. All right, let me queue up the show because I figured we had something fun to do. Matter of fact, we should also check out my boy, the guy that I put you guys on with, Professor Yang. I don't even know how to say his name. I think it's Yang, but I've heard people say Yang and all. I'm pretty sure it's Yang, though. He released another video on Iran, and I kind of want to let's all get educated on Iran and the history, right? Now, for those who don't know, I've been reading like crazy about Iran. So I'm not an expert or anything, but I'd say I'm decently educated on it. Because I'm just really big on history. I don't know if you guys know, but my best subject in school actually was history. It really was. That was the one class that I just always got an A on it, an A in, and I never really had to study for the test because it just came natural. As soon as the teacher taught it, and if it was interesting to me, I remembered it. So history was my favorite subject in school, and actually, I had a really good history teacher. Actually, shout out to Mr. Thompson from my high school. I want to find his clips because he be doing hour-long lectures, but he posted. Let me see. Oh, here it is. I don't have it up yet, guys, but I'll put it up in a minute. Not yet. Why killing Kameen? Okay, we can watch that. All right, I'll let you guys pick. You guys get the pick. That's how we're gonna do it today. You guys get the pick. Are we at the 5-minute mark yet? Oh, we are at the 5-minute mark. All right. Well, I guess we got to start the stream. Here we go. So let me do this. Let me take that out. Let me share the screen. Thank you guys again for being here. Make sure to like the video. All right, there we go. All right, screen is officially shared. All right, I'll let you guys decide. Do you guys want to watch this video? Oh, let me go to the let me make sure I go to the thumbnail so you guys can see. I'm gonna explain it too, what's happening. So, Diary of a CEO. There we go. All right, here we go. So, Diary of a CEO is a really good YouTube channel. He posted this video today. I watched a little bit of it. Basically, it's a bunch of experts. It's Andrew Bustamante. He's the CIA guy. I'm sure most of you guys know him. He's went viral everywhere. Annie Jacobson. She's the World War III doomer. Everything she says is World War III is upon us. When it happens, half the world's going to die, blah, blah, blah. That's her thing. And then this brother right here, I believe he's Iranian. He's from Iran. I actually don't really know who he is. But I want you guys to pick. I mean, we're going to watch both. But you let me know. Would you rather watch this? Or would you rather watch our good old buddy, Professor Yang, who has gone viral for pretty much being accurate on Iran? I'll let you guys pick. I want to watch both, but I figure what this stream could be is we all kind of learn about this stuff together. I think that'd be fun. So we watch some educational content and debates on the current Iran conflict, and I kind of give my commentary thoughts, and we go from there. So somebody give me a vote. Somebody give me a vote. Do something. Somebody said both. Somebody said the professor. Okay, we'll watch the professor then. We're going to watch both, but we'll watch the professor first, and then we'll get into this right here, this video. So first, let's watch Professor Yang. So his first video, and this comes from his hour-long lecture that he posted a day ago. It is, somebody said we go professor first. Okay, we're going to do professor first. So he says, why killing Khamenei? I think that's how you say his name. I want to make sure I get these people's names right. I think it's Khamenei. So why killing Khamenei was a bad idea. Here we go.
Show to themselves of the world. So as you know, World War III has started. The United States and Israel have started to attack Iran. And we are now in the 4th day of this war. And we can expect this war to last for many weeks, possibly also for many years. But I promise you that after this war is done, the world will never be the same again. So what we will do these next few weeks is use game theory and understand and analyze the geopolitical situation. And so I'm going to teach you the ideas, the theory, the techniques to understand the world around you and make predictions. And we can know if our analysis is correct because all this is happening in real time. And so we can
actually, you know what? I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get through the whole video because this video on Diary of a CEO is 2 hours. So let's actually play that one first. And if we have time, we'll get here. Just Snooping said, whichever educates us from the start, it'd probably be this one because they actually did start from the beginning. And this guy right here in the middle is from Iran. So we kind of talked about the history, and I did some reading on the history, so I do want to give commentary on that. So I think starting right here would probably be a good idea. So that's pretty much going to be the entire stream. We're kind of just going to watch this, react to it, and I am going to provide my commentary as well from the little knowledge that I have, and we're gonna kind of go from there. So let's go ahead and get started. Why not? Let's do it. Let's do it. I also think it's funny how he titled the video. So he titled it World War III Threat Assessment, Trump bombing Iran, just increased nuclear war threat, the terrifying reality. I mean, that's like the most doomer, scary title, you could think of. Like, that's like as doomer as it gets. If you guys ask me personally, I don't think this is going to escalate into World War III, but honestly, who really knows, right? You know what I honestly think about this conflict? I think this is the more correct way to frame it. I think with every conflict in the Middle East, your chances of World War III increase. That's what I think. Our chances of it have increased from like 1% to 2%. That's honestly what I think. I really do think that there's a 1 to 2% chance that this escalates into World War III. That's what I think. I'm not saying that World War III isn't eventually going to happen. It is. I just have no idea when, and I hope it never happens, But let's go ahead and play it, and I will give my commentary so they don't copyright strike me and say you stole our content, because I did not. Let's go.
Think it's going to gain from decapitating the Iranian leadership?
Well, that's kind of obvious based on what the president has said. It's that
what the president has said.
I'm just saying based on what the president says.
You can't trust anything that you're hearing right now. You can't trust anything that you're reading right now. Too tumultuous.
Well,
so who do you trust?
that's
trust
paranoid.
somebody, right?
It's not paranoid.
That
it's
is absolutely.
healthy.
It is
It's
absolutely
healthy
paranoid to
skepticism.
suggest that everything is misinformation. Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon, so it's not a nuclear threat.
You speak a different nuclear language than I do.
This regime is at its lowest point. Why not strike it now?
I mean, I can give lots of reasons why you wouldn't strike it.
But what I would also say,
create their own
What are you concerned about? And what are the unintended consequences that you're foreseeing?
There is a domino effect that happens with every decision that the United States makes. So,
Guys, I've got a quick favor to ask you. We're approaching a significant...
All right, this guy does this every video. He always says, like, please subscribe to my channel, even though I'm already mega huge. But please, guys, I'm begging you, subscribe. It's like, dude, you're already huge. Like, you don't need any other subscribers. Save some for the rest of us. I'll skip through it.
With the question that's been on my mind, as somebody that doesn't know a huge amount about geopolitics, which is, what the hell is going on? And I say that because that's exactly what I mean. What is going on, and what context do I need to understand this sort of historical context of the actions we're seeing in Iran with this war right now? Benjamin, I know you've got a personal connection to Iran because your family fled Iran, I believe.
Yeah, I was 2 years old when we left in March of 1979, a few months after the Shah had left and just after Khomeini had arrived.
What is the Shah and what is Khomeini?
Yeah, so the Shah, the former monarch of Iran, the Pahlavi dynasty, which came into power in the 1930s, deposing a previous dynasty that had been around for a couple hundred years. And his father brought in that dynasty, and then he was deposed by the British and the Americans, who felt he was getting too close to the Nazis during World War II, concerned about supply routes for the Nazis, oil. And his son was installed on the throne at a very young age, I believe 18 or 19. And he ruled Iran from that period, 1941, 1942, around that time, all the way through 79. A great ally of the United States over time, eventually, and was overthrown in a revolution, and by Khomeini, who is a senior cleric who had been a thorn in the Shah's side since the 60s, was exiled first to Turkey, then Iraq, then ultimately to France, right outside Paris, actually. From there, he basically led the revolution that led to the Shah's removal, ouster in 79.
And how was Iran different when the Shah was in power versus when Khomeini was in power?
That depends on who you ask. It was a constitutional monarchy. The Shah had powers that exceeded beyond what we think a constitutional monarchy has today, like in Great Britain. He ruled with an iron fist when he needed to. He was an authoritarian, but he also was one that was rapidly modernizing Iranian society, wanted to make it more like the West, using Iran's immense oil resources and wealth to really accelerate development, building of social institutions, healthcare, literacy, modernization, all of those things. That was his focus, make Iran more like the West. And in that sense, he succeeded, but it came at the expense oftentimes of civil liberties for many people. It came at the expense of freedom for those who wanted to essentially practice religion, Islam, Shia Islam in their own way. The Shah was not hostile to religion, but his policies were inconsistent with where the traditional religious Iranians wanted to go. And it sort of created a schism in society. And you also had a wealth gap, an income disparity. Immense wealth poured into the country, but it didn't trickle its way downward into the sort of the village and rural poor. And so there was a lot of frustration, a lot of disenchantment with his policies. And that led to sort of this populist backlash of wanting something that was more democratic, more accountable, more like the West, ironically. And that sort of was the beginning of where that cycle led.
And so how did Khomeini take power of Iran?
He led a movement, a mass populist movement, not a religious one, but meant to go across multiple socioeconomic and political divides, and unified the opposition under this idea of removing the monarchy, removing dependence on the West. He specifically said Iran, the United States was to large part to blame for Iran being in the state that it was, for people not having the things they needed to live, the freedoms, the liberties. He blamed.
So what's interesting about what he's saying is he's going over that history and what he's breaking down, because when you watch the mainstream news, they only take you back to 1979, where obviously the current, well, he's dead now, but the supreme leader, Khomeini, ruled for like almost 50 years. Like they were there for a very long time. And what he's doing is he's going back even further than that. He's like, if you really want to understand everything that's happening right now, including with Iran, you got to go back before 1979. You actually really got to go back to the 1930s, which is what he's explaining. And then you got to move on to the 1950s. And then you make your way to 1979. So I appreciate this context, because this is the stuff that you don't really get from the mainstream media. And honestly, these 2-hour long videos or interviews or whatever you want to call it, debates, are really important, so people can actually really get a good understanding of what's really going on over there, because it's hard to even really form an opinion on what to think about us being over there if you don't even really understand it, right? So I think that this context is extremely important. And then obviously they'll get into their debate on why Trump is doing this or what the heck is happening. So let's listen.
The Shah's use of the secret police and torture methods on the United States and on Israel, who he claimed, taught the secret police how to do these things. There's a complicated sort of history to that. And he basically promised them salvation from what he portrayed as a puppet tyrant of the United States. And
all right, I want to speak on that real quick, because this part I'm a little bit knowledgeable about. So what he's saying is that back in the 1950s, what happened is both Israel and the United States trained them, right? Like the CIA had a relationship with them where they trained them on how to do some of these certain tactics and things that they were doing. So that part is actually right. And this context is important when you realize that the CIA has been involved with that country for a very, very long time. We're talking decades.
To do these things, there's a complicated sort of history to that. And he basically promised them salvation from what he portrayed as a puppet tyrant of the United States. And the masses bought into this, but both the left and the right. Really, the right consisted of the black, the Islamists. So you had the red, which were sort of the Marxist socialist followers. You had the black, and then you had sort of that middle in between. And they all coalesced around this one charismatic religious figure, very austere man, one who didn't really have a lot of luxuries himself, led a simple life, but was consistent with his opposition to what he saw tyranny and despotism, and people bought into it.
And the Americans didn't like this.
The Americans didn't know what to make of it, and there was a failure, and I think Andrew can talk about this as well, over a failure by the State Department and the CIA in the 70s to see where the threat was. They saw the threat coming from the Soviet Union. They were still afraid of Soviet encroachment in the Middle East, particularly through Iran. Their concerns were with the Marxists, the communist parties. They did not carefully look at the black. They didn't look at the Islamists. They didn't see them as a threat until it was too late. The Shah himself blocked or really didn't give the CIA full access to Iran. There was limited information that was coming out. He relied on his own intelligence, which fed him information he wanted to hear, which is that everything is going great. the country's doing well, the people love you, they're all happy, until the discontent and the protest they reached a threshold and it was too late to do anything about it.
Yeah, the United States was kind of at their peak period of meddling in foreign governments at the time. In a strange way that we've come full circle, this idea of controlling an entire country by controlling the figurehead of the country. That's where we were in the late 70s, at the kind of brink of the Cold War, right? Nobody knew that the Berlin Wall was going to fall. We were all concerned with the spread of communism. Nobody was paying attention to the Islamist threat. Nobody was paying attention to really any other kind of threat at all. It was very much the unfettered, uncontrolled, unsupervised CIA running around with no oversight and with very deep pockets.
Yeah, so the CIA back then was just rogue. They were just out of their minds. They were destabilizing governments. They were just doing some of the shadiest things you could think of, right? They were involved in drug dealing in the United States. I mean, they were just doing everything you could think of. But yeah, the CIA during that time was involved with all these different countries because they were worried about the Soviets. And some of those countries are like Egypt, Iran, all those Muslim countries they were affiliated with and did all sorts of things, trained them, all kinds of stuff.
And that changed at some point.
That changed in 2001 when Al-Qaeda successfully carried out the 9/11 attacks in New York. And all of a sudden, the threat that we had all been ignoring was on our doorstep and had grown so wealthy and had spread so vast across the world that Islamic extremism became almost overnight a household term. Now, there's still a difference between Al-Qaeda, Islamic Shia extremism, and what is practiced in the Shia faith and with the outcomes that the Shia militants are trying to pursue in support of Iran. But it's hard to differentiate that in the United States where we don't understand the difference between Sunni and Shia.
Annie, what do you think this war is really about?
Very interesting what you both said. And I think what I would add to that, which very much speaks to today, is that the CIA, in fact, had many ups and downs over the decades from its creation right after World War II until this moment in time, and then on 9/11. And so it's been like an accordion experience of power being taken away from the CIA and then being grabbed back, because the CIA has always historically been the president's hidden hand. It has been the way in which the White House can execute executive power without having to follow the laws of war that the military does. So military is a code called Title 10. CIA is a code called Title 50. And while that may sound a bit wonkish, it is important to understand because Title 50 essentially, as Andrew can speak to, gives the president authority under classified presidential directive to change any rule he wants that suits him for an operation at hand, which gets us precisely to where we are today.
So as far as I understand,
I don't know if I agree with that, the way that she framed it, but beyond that, Title 50, she left this part out. Title 50, you still have to alert Congress about it. So I don't know if you guys know this. I forgot what it's called. It's like the Majestic 8 or 6, whatever. It's something like that. The Gang of 8, something like that. There's a elite group of Congress. Let me look it up just so I'm not sounding like an idiot here. Let me pull it up for you guys because I know exactly what it is. I just can't think of it. I think it's called the Gang of 8 Congress. So you have to notify. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So what she's talking about with Title 50, she didn't mention Congress at all, which was kind of odd. She made it seem like under Title 50, the president could just do whatever. That's kind of the way she kind of framed it. Like under this weird thing, if it's classified, the president could do. No, not really, actually. Congress is still involved, which is actually extremely important. Because if Congress wasn't involved at all, then yeah, the president would be able to do whatever he wanted. That would actually be really scary. But for those who don't know, the Gang of 8 is a set of 8 leaders within the United States Congress who, according to law, are briefed on classified intelligence matters by the executive branch. That is actually extremely important because now there's a little bit of oversight. That's part of the checks and balances that happen in the United States. I mean, I like her, but I don't know why she wouldn't mention that because that's really, really important context. Like, no, the president can't just do whatever he wants under the guise of, oh, it's classified. No, there's a gang of 8. There are 8 congressional leaders in Congress who get access to these classified briefings, and they're able to be tapped into what's going on. And if the president is doing something shaky, then they can act on it. Now, to be fair, these people, this gang of 8 in Congress, they know all the secrets. They know all the kinds of stuff, and they typically don't do anything. It's pretty crazy. So they don't do anything, but they can, they at least they know about it, like if the president was just working with the CIA and doing anything he wanted and Congress didn't even know about it, that would be really dangerous. So important context right there. The Gang of 8, they have to alert them with the Title 50. Okay.
And there was the Shah, the sort of royal leader who was in power. He was overthrown in the late 1970s by Khomeini. Khomeini galvanized people to believe in his way, and he's been in power ever since.
It gets complicated because Khomeini, with an O, was the original leader of the revolution and was later replaced by Khamenei with an A.
Okay, there's two.
But no, that is
They're both
100%.
the supreme leader.
Yes.
And this speaks to.
Wait, what? Did y'all just hear that? What? Wait, I didn't know that. Look. Like I said, guys, this stream is about us learning about this stuff together. Khomeini and Khomeini. That's interesting. I did not know that. So there's two of them. Oh, wow. There is two of them. Okay. So Ali Khamenei was the successor and served as the president and then the supreme leader of Iran from 1989 until his assassination in 2026. And then Khomeini, see, this is interesting. They have the exact same name, just a different spelling. Okay, so Khomeini was the revolutionary founder and first supreme leader of Iran. So he's the one who helped them take power in 1979, and then he served as their leader until 1989. I assume he died or got out of power or something. And then after that, another Khomeini succeeded him. That's the old guy who got killed by Israel recently in Iran. He became a successor, and then he was the supreme leader. That's interesting. See, I didn't know this stuff. So there's two Khomeinis, and we got to make sure that we know that. Okay, that's interesting.
The revolutionary nature of Iran, which has been, taking place since 1979. In the news today, people hear the IR, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. And it's so important to understand that word revolution because, and you can speak to this better than any of us, but Iran has been holding on to this idea that, or rather the regime has, that we are the revolutionary force against America. That is why the chant is always death to America. The wound of pre-1975, the wound of America meddling and having the Shah as its puppet is as inflamed.
And see, that context is important as well because they don't tell us that either. I did not know that the IRGC basically meant that it ties into Iran's long-standing hate for America that goes all the way back to literally the 1950s. That's interesting. Never knew that, but it really does explain a lot because I do remember way back in the early 2000s, back before things got filtered, if you remember, there used to be videos of Iranians and people in that region chanting death to America all the time. And now we kind of know why. This is a deep-rooted hatred for America that goes back a very long time.
Or was as inflamed 2 days ago as it was the day after the revolution in 1979.
I think that's probably important context we missed, which was the US got involved in the Shah and how he governed Iran.
It's a fascinating period. In 1951, so basically under the Iranian constitution, the Shah, the king, has the authority to select the prime minister with the consent of parliament. The consent part is really nominal. And so Mossadegh, who is a senior member of parliament and also a member of the previous royal dynasty, is distantly related, this elderly statesman who the Shah, out of sort of courtesy, after having gone through a successive list of prime ministers, says, okay, I'm going to appoint him prime minister. So he wasn't democratically elected. He was elected to parliament, but from there, the Shah selected him to be prime minister. Mossadegh nationalized the oil company, the Anglo-American oil company, which was owned primarily by the British. This angered the British, who in turn blockaded Iran's ports and basically shut down its oil industry. and creating a national crisis. And Mossadegh was sort of amassing additional powers within himself, for himself, basically overstepping the authority that he had, even though he had the support of a good deal of the public, as it became obvious that this was a bad move, especially in the eyes of Iran's international trading partners, and it was causing Iran to be isolated. There was pushback towards him, and then he was removed. The British MI6 had wanted to overthrow him, basically get him removed, and they tried to recruit the United States to help. President Truman refused to engage in this earlier. Eisenhower comes in, is more receptive under CIA Director Allen Dulles to actually engage in this, called Operation TP Ajax, led by Kermit Roosevelt, who is the CIA agent officer tasked with this. And then the Americans and the British basically help foment a crowd that is a part of the movement that removes Mossadegh. Now, whether it's a common, I think, a misconception that the US CIA was behind it. The British had a bigger role in this. The Americans were more of the junior partner, but they became sort of the public face of it. Mm-hmm. But Mossadegh was not this overwhelmingly popular, democratically elected figure either. The history is more complicated. And regardless, there were many prime ministers after him. And so he was known as a nationalist because he believed that Iran's oil should be nationalized and not really beholden to British interests. And that created a lot of resentment and animosity. But that began the US-Iranian relationship really solidified when the Shah returned. He didn't leave, really. He just sort of took himself out of the country for a bit, but he never stepped down. And while this was all being resolved, then he comes back, and then the US-Iranian relationship continues all the way through 79.
So the UK and the US have been meddling in Iran for a long time and kind of, exerting their will.
The UK since the 19th century, by far. The UK has been the dominant colonial force in modern Iranian history.
And they lose that power in the sort of 1980s, early 1980s, because the Khomeini comes in.
The British lose that power with the fall of the empire in the 1940s after World War II, and then the United States in 79, exactly.
And then since then, the UK and the US haven't been able to sort of exert control in their will over Iran. And
Zero. There's not even an embassy there because, of course, they took our embassy, or they took over the embassy. I mean, it's been like ground zero of nothing for the CIA's power, for any American power, really for any Western power.
We call it a black box.
Yeah.
It's a rogue nation. It's a black box of information. A rogue nation is a...
All right, we got to look that up because that's actually insane. We gotta fact check this. Like I said, we're all learning together. Iran seized U.S. embassy? Because that's what they just said. Oh, yeah, they did. Wow, that's interesting. This is crazy. See, this is the context. This is the stuff we don't know. We're learning together, guys. On November 4th, 1979, that's the same year as that revolution, Iranian students supporting the revolution stormed the U.S. embassy in Tehran, taking 66 Americans hostage. 52 were held for 444 days. The crisis was fueled by anger over the U.S. allowing the deposed Shah to receive medical treatment, profoundly damaging U.S.-Iran relations. Wow. So I heard them mention a rogue state. Yeah. So it sounds, because you guys know the U.S. has like bases everywhere. Like the U.S. has military bases literally everywhere except for like a few countries. I'm pretty sure Iran is one of them. I could be wrong though. Maybe they do. Iran. I know North Korea is one of them too. Iran, does U.S. have military bases there? Nope. The United States does not have any military bases inside Iran. Wow. Well, that pretty much tells you everything you need to know. That shows you that the relationship between the U.S. and Iran is just as good as the U.S. relationship with North Korea. Terrible. There is none. So that's interesting. I did not know that. Wow.
Is one of a handful of countries around the world that follow no international norms. North Korea is a rogue nation. Belarus is a rogue nation. Cuba is a rogue nation.
Oh, yeah,
Venezuela
Cuba,
was a rogue nation. These countries that completely stand separate from the norms of an international society. And in Iran's case, it also became this black box where it did not allow foreigners in, especially not Westerners. It closed down its embassy. The traditional methods for collecting intelligence were very difficult. And geographically, it's so far away and so far outside of the sphere of influence for the United States that in terms of intelligence and military prioritization, it just fell to the bottom of the list.
And yet look exactly where it is. It's right in the middle of the East. And to Benjamin's point, oil, oil, oil. It's always about oil. There's always a component of oil.
And there are so many other oil options in that region besides Iran, right? Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, Qatar. They've got, the United States could partner with other Arab countries to get what they wanted without having to.
Yes, but Iran's oil matters globally. Somebody's got to get that oil. And who is the number one receiver of Iran's oil right now? China. So even though the United States can get it other places, the United States got their own oil here, by the way. Even though the United States can do that, Iran's oil still matters globally. Maybe not for the United States, but for other big countries and superpowers, Iran's oil definitely matters.
Deal with Iran.
So explain to me in simple terms why Trump right now has decided that this is the best time to attack Iran. I want to start with you, Andrew. What's your point of view on that? The full picture of what his motivations.
I think the question that you just asked is the most prescient question that we will talk about today. Why? Why now? Why is it being communicated the way it's being communicated? Why was it executed the way it was executed? So why is now the best of all times? I frankly don't think it is. I think that's the narrative that's being communicated to the world and to the public. What Donald Trump did in attacking Iran goes against what the ODNI report assessed for the most likely threats against the United States in the ODNI's 2005 threat assessment. It goes against the Department of War's 2026 National Defense Strategy, and it goes against the White House's National Security Strategy. These massive doctrinal annual assessments for how the United States will protect national security. The attack against Iran goes contrary to all three of those in terms of priority and action. So why now? Why the way that we've done it? I can't answer it in any kind of logical way.
What's the non-logical answer?
It's a distraction. It's international pressure with Israel. It's a cheap win after a series of losses. It's a last-ditch effort before he understands that Donald Trump and his party will lose control of the House in the midterms this year.
I have a little bit of a different take, shall I?
Mm-hmm.
I believe the current administration is led as a completely top-down situation. In other words, like sole presidential authority. This current president is very enraptured with power and with prowess, with effectiveness. And on the heels of Maduro and maybe even the cartel leader in Mexico, I believe that the current president saw a moment of intense weakness that had been building, no doubt. And in warring in general, when looking at it theoretically like someone like myself, the decapitation strike is the ultimate strike. It's literally like it sounds it comes from cut off the head of the snake. And that is exactly what just happened.
Why though? Why did he do that?
Well, I cannot tell you why, but I can tell you what we all know that this happened. So if you reverse engineer what happened.
Okay, so she don't know. Okay. I'm going to tell y'all what this is really about, in my opinion. Okay. This is what I think's happening. If you look at Trump's faith counselor, I don't remember the title. I don't remember. I'm not going to look it up. It's not that serious, but Trump has some sort of faith something, whatever. Paula White, you guys know who that is, the televangelist pastor. She's in Trump's something for faith or whatever. She's an absolute Zionist. Many of people in Trump's cabinet are Zionists. They are ultra pro-Israel. They believe in this biblical, evangelical, Zionist framework that, okay, I don't want to embellish this. Let me see. So I'm going to paraphrase here. Don't take me verbatim, but this is my understanding of it. And we've seen this directly because there was actually news articles coming out today where U.S. soldiers were saying that we're being told that this is a religious war. And they're like, what the heck? Like, I didn't sign up for this. But from my understanding, what I've been reading, there are people in Trump's cabinet that really think that this is some sort of religious war. They think that Israel has to take the Middle East in order for Jesus to come down and for the rapture to happen, something like that. Again, I'm not fully accurate here. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling you guys my understanding. And let me just pull up something so you guys don't think I'm absolutely insane, because I'm telling you. Let me pull up U.S. soldiers, religious war, Iran, because I'm telling you, I saw articles about it. Here it is, right here. Here it is. I know I'm not crazy. I know I ain't crazy. Here we go. U.S. troops were told Iran war anointed by Jesus to bring on Armageddon. In my opinion, that's what I think this is really about. Whether right or wrong, whether whatever, that's what I think that people in Trump's cabinet believe. Now, because people in Trump's cabinet believe this, Trump is, and by the way, Bibi believes this too. So it's really important that people understand this, because this is the deeper meaning here. Yes, there's oil, yes, there's Iran's an enemy, fine. But this is religious. And the fact that U.S. troops are being told by their captains or commanders, whatever, that the Iran war is anointed by Jesus to bring on the Armageddon is very interesting. And that's what this is really about. This whole anointed by Jesus to bring on Armageddon thing, all this biblical stuff, Bibi Netanyahu believes something very similar too. This is religious for them. You know who else this is religious for? Iran. That is why a lot of people believe that the Middle East is heavily tied to the end times in the Bible and the prophecy. That's what this stuff's about. I'm glad I was able to find this article, because if I told you guys this without pulling out this article, some of you all would think I'm nuts. But yeah, this is a thing. Look, military leaders say Iran war is so Trump could bring about Armageddon. Let's actually read this, because this is interesting. According to this from the New Republic, troops have logged more than 110 complaints about such comments with the Military Religious Freedom Foundation. Without any clear message coming from the White House with regard to the purpose of the Iran war, U.S. military commanders have turned to Jesus, apparently telling American troops that the war is biblically sanctioned. The U.S. joined Israel in striking Iran early. Okay, blah, blah. We know what happened. Okay. One such note included an anecdote from a non-commissioned officer who reported that their commander had urged us to tell our troops that this was all part of God's divine plan, and he specifically referenced numerous citations out of the book of Revelation referring to Armageddon and the imminent return of Jesus Christ. The NCO's complaint was lodged on behalf of 15 troops, including 11 Christians, 1 Muslim, and 1 Jew. According to Larson, the officer stated that such remarks destroy morale and unit cohesion and are in violation of the oaths we swore to support the Constitution. So this whole thing is biblical, y'all. As a matter of fact, I think I saved a tweet from Paula White. I wanted to listen to her real quick. Remember, this is like Trump's like spiritual advisor or whatever. I swear I saved it. Did I? I thought I did. Nope, maybe not. Okay, I got to find it. Paula White. Let's see if it pops right up. It should. Oh, yeah, this is it. This is the clip. Yep, this is it. Okay. So now that we have that, let me look up who Paula White is to Trump, because he appointed her to something. Paula White appointed by Trump. I forgot what they called it. Evangelical advisor. There it is. Here it is. February 7, 2025. President Trump announces appointment to the White House Faith Office. What is this? Oh, they want me to join the White House. No, thanks. No, thank you. So Paula White will return to the White House as a special government employee and senior advisor of the newly created White House office, White House Faith Office. Okay. So now that we understand that, now we have to go back. Guys, this is what Paula White believes. And this goes behind this whole religious thing that I was telling you about. This is what the people in Trump's cabinet believe. So when you consider the people who are in Trump's cabinet, it starts to make sense why this is happening. And again, I appreciate the experts in that video we're watching, but I wish that they will mention this because this is what it's really about. Let's play it. This is what Paula White has to say about all this stuff.
Strike and 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 strike until you have victory. For every enemy that is aligned against you, let there be that we would strike the ground, for you will give us victory, God. I hear a sound of abundance of rain. I hear a sound of victory. I hear a sound of shouting and singing. I hear a sound of victory. I hear a sound of an abundance of rain. I hear a sound of victory. I hear a sound of an abundance of rain. I hear a
Okay, I don't think this is what I was looking for. Maybe it is, though.
They're coming, for I.
Okay, I don't have the clip right now. I guess they're just making fun of her and saying that she's crazy, but there's like a clip of her literally like talking about this stuff. Like this lady's a full-on Zionist. So that's the bottom line. That's all I was really trying to say. That lady's a full-on Zionist and she's in Trump's cabinet. And there are a bunch of other people who are Zionists in Trump's cabinet. Okay, let's listen. Doesn't look like they're going to bring up the religious aspects. So I just wanted to talk about that for you guys.
I think there's only one conclusion, which is that I would think the current president had wanted to do this and was waiting till he had the intelligence part of it is beyond remarkable. Like how the CIA and NSA and, probably DIA and NGA, all of these intelligence agencies, of which there are many, not just the CIA, were able to get that information to the president in that exact moment and make that strike and decapitate the leadership that has been in power since 1979.
When they talk about the motives here, Trump will often cite nuclear weapons as the motive, saying he didn't want Iran to get nuclear weapons. Is that what's going on here in your point of view?
The 2025 National Threat Assessment that was produced by the ODN.
I want to answer this because just snooping, you're not from the United States, right? So if you're not from the United States, then that's a very valid question because you really wouldn't know. How many Zios make up the US? There's a lot. There's a lot. I mean, most people are not Zionists, but a lot of them have power. That's the difference. A lot of people in this country who have power and have control over policy in America, a lot of them are Zionists. And even bigger than that, a lot of them are Christian Zionists. So let me break this down because this is all new to me. This is stuff that I've been reading and researching over the last few days. And this is all very interesting stuff. Yeah, I didn't think you were from the US. That's what I thought. You're from somewhere else. Yeah. So in the United States, there's obviously the Zionists, right? Like the actual Jewish Zionists who are heavily affiliated with Israel. Some of them are born in Israel or whatever, right? You have the Jewish Zionists, okay? And then the bigger population in America is called the Christian Zionists. These are people who are not Jewish, not Israeli, have nothing to do with that region at all. You're from the UK, okay? That's what's up. They're not Jewish. They're not Israeli, none of that stuff. These are people who, some people call them evangelicals, but I think a better name for them is Christian Zionists. Their interpretation of the Bible is very similar to the Zionist interpretation of the Bible. And it goes back to that military article that I pulled up where they believe that it's God's divine plan. And in order for the prophecy in the book of Revelation in the Bible to be fulfilled, Israel has to take over the Middle East or whatever it is, right? So that's a really big belief here in America. That's a really big belief. There are a lot of these Christian Bible thumpers here who really believe this. Now, I personally do not, okay? But I'm also not a biblical expert or scholar, and I haven't read the book of Revelation in years. So maybe it says it in there. I don't know. But that's what these people believe. You know what? It doesn't even matter what I believe or what I think. What matters is that is what these people believe. Whether right or wrong, that's what they believe. So you got Jewish Zionists here, and then you have Christian Zionists who are just regular Americans who believe this stuff. Okay, let's keep going. This is educational, isn't it, guys? Thank you guys for being here. This is like, we're all learning together. Like, that's really what the stream is about. This is one of the better streams, I would say, because we all get to learn about this stuff and fact check it in real time.
And in March, so less than a year old, specifically says that Iran was unlikely to pursue the development of nuclear enrichment or nuclear weapons. That was the assessment of the ODNI. And that instead, their primary concern was that Iran was going to focus resources into the research of biological and chemical weapons. So the fact that in March of 2025, the ODNI, the assessment of all intelligence agencies, said Iran is not working on a nuclear weapon. And then after the strike in June of the same year, where we dropped bunker busters in Fordo, further obliterating their nuclear enrichment capability and obliterating their program, we have 2 documents that say they're not developing it. We have another series of attacks that says it's obliterated, and yet we're still saying that we need to attack Iran because of WMD. We've heard that story before. We've heard that WMD is that the concern of WMD is a just cause for war, and that was when we invaded Iraq in 1992.
So what do you think the real motivation there is, therefore is?
It's very similar to what Annie is saying, that we have a current administration that is president down. It's fascinating if you read the official documentation, because when you read the Department of War's national security strategy, what you hear more than any other word is Donald Trump. Our president, Donald Trump, is leading America through our president, Donald Trump, the great Donald Trump. It's incredible. When you hear the speeches that come out of Marco Rubio's mouth or Pete Hegseth's mouth, what do you hear more than any other term? You hear the name of the president. Usually you hear we or the government or this administration. It's not around a personality. So it's a very interesting situation, because if there's so much of a person at stake here, and everybody surrounding the office of the president is only there because they are kissing the ring of the personality in the center.
And
Benjamin,
I'm going to add to that further just for a moment, if I may, because on that point, the button on that is that I watch the current president's speeches to sort of, discern things. And you can often get your answer right there. And in one of the speeches, either this morning or yesterday, he mentioned that the Ayatollah tried to kill him. And to me, it's like, oh, that's the tit for tat, again, top down, or you could say schoolboy sandbox. I say that as the mother of 2 boys. This human behavior that is way.
I don't know if you guys know what she's talking about, but I want to explain that too in case you don't. So in 2024, when Trump was running for president before he got elected, there was bombshell reports from intelligence that said that Iran was trying to assassinate him to prevent him from becoming president. That is the thing. And then because of that, they beefed up his security. Now, here's something interesting that you may not know. In the news today, it got announced that the guy who was allegedly behind that actually was murdered today. He was killed. Yeah. I don't know if Israel or whoever did it, but again, I want to go and find it because I saw that tweet. Let me see if I can find it. That one, I'm pretty sure I bookmarked. Let me see if I can find it because I want to make sure that I give you guys his name. But yeah, that specific guy who was behind the plot to assassinate Donald Trump in 2024, that guy was killed today. I don't know why I can't remember that guy's name. What was that guy's name? Oh, here it is. Here it is. That's him. Rahman Makadam. I don't know how to say it, but says here, this is reported today, Israel has eliminated Rahman Makadam, head of the IRGC Special Operations Department, who was behind the assassination attempt or plot on President Donald Trump. Now, the one problem I do have with this tweet is they're putting up the picture of Donald Trump when the Thomas Matthew Crook shot him. We don't have any indication that Iran was behind that. So I don't know why they did that. But just so we're clear, we don't have any proof or evidence that Iran was behind that young adult. Sorry, he's not a kid. He's an adult. He's like 20 something. But that young adult who tried to kill Donald Trump and shot him in the ear. What we know is that this guy, Rahman, he was plotting on assassinating Donald Trump. He wasn't able to actually carry it out. Now, I know that there's a bunch of like alternative theories on what happened with Thomas Matthew Crooks, and I completely support it. I'm definitely with you guys. I completely get it. But we haven't seen anything yet. That's the bottom line. So, yeah, this guy wanted to do it. He never succeeded as far as we know. Like, he never actually tried to implement it as far as we know, excuse me. But yeah, but you never know. You're right. So, okay.
Outside the norm of, intelligence reports and assessments and these long monographs that may or may not actually be effective. I mean, the biggest surprises of the past 40 years, the Berlin Wall falling and 9/11, were completely unseen by any intelligence report. So there is an argument that those intelligence reports are as good as a coin toss.
So I want to come to that point because the very fact that we have an Islamic Republic is a direct result of a failure of American intelligence to see that threat as early as 1976, 77, a failure to inform then President Carter to take the necessary steps to support the Shah and to neutralize that threat. So the United States track record in Iran for the last 40 or 50 years is abysmal when it comes to intelligence and when it comes to statecraft. And so there's that legacy, number one. Number two, October 7, 2023, the Hamas attack against Israel changed the dynamic entirely. That attack surprised Israeli intelligence, it surprised Americans, it surprised almost anybody watching. Nobody thought Hamas was going to do that when they.
All right, I'm sorry, but I got to stop this. We got to be very careful with this framing. I agree with everything he said. It surprised Israelis, yes. But he said it surprised Americans. Be honest, guys. Did any of you all know who Hamas was before October 7, 2023? I wouldn't necessarily say that it surprised Americans. I think it kind of got pushed on us. And, you know, I don't mean to be crass here. I'm not trying to be, but what I need people to understand, and this is why I keep saying that we have to pay attention to the Israel America links, because they made it so that every single person in America knew who Hamas was and knew about these October 7th attacks. But guess what? These sorts of terrorist plots and attacks happen all over the world. They happen in Asia, they happen in Africa, they happen everywhere. And you never hear about it. You never, ever hear about it because the American media doesn't care. But all of a sudden, when one happens in Israel, and again, I'm not saying that it wasn't terrible. Any terrorist attack is terrible. But my point is, all these terrorist attacks happen all over the world. But the one that happens in Israel is the one that gets shoved down our throats. So when he says that, you know, this shocked Americans, I don't know, because nobody knew who Hamas was. Nobody even really knew about the actual conflict going on in Israel until it was literally shoved in our faces by the American media. Once that happened, then people started to get educated. Then people started to learn about it. But I just don't like that he's making it seem like Israel was surprised and America was surprised. Like, oh, we didn't know that Hamas could do this. Like, Americans didn't even know who Hamas was, brother. Like, we had no idea. We don't know nothing about that. I think I can speak for a lot of people when I say most Americans just don't really care what's happening around the world, okay? And I don't mean that in a mean way. Like, okay, let me say this in a nice way. Let me be diplomatic here, okay? We do care what's happening in other places, but we care about what's happening in America more because America has a lot of problems, okay? Let me phrase it that way, okay? We have so many problems in America, it's hard for Americans to pay attention to what's going on around the world. Because in America, our healthcare system is screwed up. Trust me, I know about that directly because I'm not joking, guys. I've spent like $8,000 this year on healthcare. Not joking. I had to go to the emergency room for something. I'm okay. Nothing's wrong. I just had to go to the emergency room for something, make sure I was okay. That was like $2,000, $3,000. My wife had a medical scare. Thankfully, she's fine. They thought she was going to need surgery. She didn't. Perfectly fine, perfectly healthy. That ended up costing a few $1,000s. So we have a medical crisis in this country. We have a debt crisis. We have an affordability crisis. We have an education crisis. And if you look at the average American, most Americans are just trying to survive. Seriously. So it's hard to even want to pay attention or learn about this stuff in other countries when we're so focused on the problems we have here. And we have so many problems in America. So many. There are so many people in this country who are struggling, who can't afford their bills. And a lot of these people got kids. So when you got kids and you're trying to figure out how your kids are going to eat or how you're going to be able to pay your rent, it is really, really hard to do research or even know who the heck Hamas is. Okay. All right, let's go. Got to make sure we correct that.
Did it and the means in which they did it. So all of a sudden that forced a recalibration, a recalculation of what's at stake, what could happen. If we wait for an imminent threat till we see actually the sign outside the door, it's too late. So from the president's perspective, to answer your original question, why now, why do this? I believe the October 7th attacks, and it's not at the behest of Israel necessarily, it's the idea that Iran, we know, finances Hamas, subsidizes Hamas, trains Hamas, equips Hamas, provides.
Hey, just snooping. I'm glad you said this because you're right. Mossad and Israel. For those who don't know, everybody mutually agrees. Like every former CIA guy that you talk to, everybody mutually agrees that Israel actually has the best intelligence service in the world. By the way, Israel's intelligence service has existed for a long time. It's actually been around just as long as the CIA has. It's been around for a very, very long time, and they are very, very creative and very, very smart, and they are very, very good at what they do. So I do agree with just snooping here when he says that there's no way that they didn't know about October 7th. I have to agree with you. It's hard for me to believe that they didn't. It's almost like, you know how they say that intelligence in America didn't know about 9/11, which actually isn't true, by the way, guys. We have direct proof that American intelligence actually did know about 9/11. What happened was the CIA and FBI hated each other. So they both had the missing pieces that each person needed to connect the dots on 9/11. So the FBI had certain intelligence, but they didn't really have the full puzzle. And then the CIA has certain intelligence, but they didn't really have the full puzzle. But if both organizations just talk to each other, they would have had the full puzzle. And I think something pretty similar is the case with Israel. Maybe Israel didn't have the full puzzle. Okay, fine. But there's no way that Israel had no idea that this was going to happen, in my opinion. I think their intelligence knew something. I think they just weren't able to stop it. That's what I think.
Logistical support of on many levels so that Hamas can be what it was, and Hezbollah also. So you have these destabilizing non-state groups in the Middle East wreaking havoc, destabilizing, causing chaos. You're the United States. You're also dealing with a nuclear threshold state. So Iran may or may not have a nuclear weapons program, but they exceeded the 20% enrichment that they were allowed to do under the non-nuclear non-proliferation treaty. They violated IAEA safeguards. They lied. So you take all of this together. This is a regime that can't be trusted, that chants death to America, which is more than Saddam Hussein ever did, and is funding groups that that up until 9/11, Iran was behind more acts of terror that cost American lives than any other state or non-state group in the world. 9/11 changed that, but up until that, the Marine barracks bombing in the 1980s, terrorist attacks throughout Europe, South
US
America,
Embassy.
U.S. Embassy, absolutely, the USS Cole, right? So this is we've been at war from the president's perspective with Iran since they took our hostages, for which they've never atoned for. They've never been held to account for. So if you take that calculus, and then now we're in a post-October 7th world with a nuclear threshold state, what happened that changed was last year's 12-day war in June created an opportunity, weakened Iran enough and its proxies, Hezbollah, Hamas, weakened. If there's an opportunity to finally address this 47-year-old conflict, this was the window to do it. That is why I believe, rightly or wrongly, the president took the action when he did.
That doesn't make it the best window. And that's what we're being told, is that it was the last best window.
I don't think it was the last best window, but it was a window, or at least from their perspective, it was a window. You've got everyone weakened. You've got the regime less popular than it's ever been. I mean, we saw the protests in January that led to the bloodbath that, upwards of 30,000 people killed on January 8th and 9th. This was, this regime is at its lowest point, both in protests in January.
30,000 people. Hey, what?
Led to the bloodbath that, upwards of 30,000 people killed on January 8th and 9th.
I feel like if 30,000 people were killed, that'd be like national news, right? 30,000 people killed. January 8th and 9th. 30,000 people. 30,000 people. Oh my goodness. Holy cow, he's not joking. Wow. Okay, this is awful. Jeez Louise. Oh, it's an assumption. Okay. I'm like, okay, so this is obviously not true. Okay. Iran protest death toll could top 30,000. Okay. That scared me for a second. I'm like, 30,000 people? In 2 days? Like, how have we not heard about this? Okay, so we gotta do some research here, guys, because okay. Iran, the Nazi deaths, Okay, so it looks like there were massacres. So there were, it probably wasn't 30,000 people, but there were massacres. Wow. Wow, that's crazy. That's actually terrible. And why don't we hear about this stuff? I have never known this. Like, did they cover this? Obviously not, because the only news organization I see covering it is Time Magazine. Oh, okay. The Guardian covered it. The Guardian is a really good newspaper. Okay, The Guardian covered it. Disappeared bodies, mass burials, and 30,000 dead. What's the truth of Iran's death toll? Okay, here we go. We just need to read this real quick because this is nuts. That is an insane amount of people. Like, what? Never heard of this. Network of more than, I'm just getting to the part for you guys. Okay, estimates of the number killed vary substantially, hampered by the ongoing internet shutdown. The Iranian government has acknowledged more than 3,000 dead in the U.S. Human Rights says it verified more than 6,000 dead and has more than 17,000 more recorded deaths under investigation, giving a possible total of 22,000. That's what I thought. So this is speculation. Basically, we really only have 6,000 confirmed dead. And let me not say only, because obviously 6,000 dead is still a huge deal. 6,000 dead is insane too. 30,000 is like, we got to do something. That's what that's like. But 6,000 is just as bad too. Oh goodness, they're showing the bodies. Okay, all right, let me get out of there. All right. Yeah, that's terrible. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. That's dark. And the other part to this too is this stuff happens all over the world. I know you guys know that, but this stuff happens all over the world. These massacres of people, this stuff happens all over the world all the time, and we never hear anything about it. It just happens, and that's it.
This was, this regime is at its lowest point, both in terms of domestic credibility and soft power and ability to use proxies to carry out its will. Why not strike it now would be the logic.
I mean, I can give lots of reasons why you wouldn't strike it. It's violating international law. It sets a dangerous precedent. It creates instability. There are Americans dead, Emiratis dead, Saudis dead. For what? For something that was already on the precipice of dying itself.
It's been dying for 40 years.
So why not let it run its course?
Because what more damage is it going to do? What more October 7th can we see?
Arguably less than anything that's already been done. So it's like taking action it's like putting down the dead dog after it's done all of its damage.
It wasn't, well, I don't think that you could say to the families of the 30,000 some people who were murdered by the regime just earlier, in January, that it's a dead dog. I think they would disagree.
It's their country. It's their people. It's their decision. It's their right to self.
Listen, the CIA guy is right. The CIA guy is right. Also, please, like, you really think that the United States is going over there because they care about those supposed, it wasn't 30,000, it was 6,000, but the 6,000 Iranian protesters who were killed, you really think the U.S. cares about those people? Come on, people. The U.S. don't care nothing about that at all. And these types of massacres happen everywhere. They happen in Africa. Every place you can think of, they happen all the time, especially in the Middle East and especially in Asian countries and different things like that. The U.S. don't care about that. I'm actually with Andrew on this one. I mean, this is terrible. It is awful, but it's not like the U.S. is over there because they actually care about those people.
Determination.
I'm not saying it's correct what was done. I'm just simply saying the facts of that, which I agree with, unilaterally, that the weakened situation was perceived by this administration as the moment to strike.
Agreed.
And what is done is done.
Agreed.
And so I think what's more interesting to me is, observing how America is dealing with this. I mean, we are in our own crisis, America, our own serious crisis.
Yes, we are.
And there are crises around the world, particularly in this area. And without having a crystal ball, none of us know. And I think that what will happen in the next 2 weeks will be profoundly telling. Interestingly, people will say, this was a good move or this was a bad move, which in and of itself is a bizarre theater, because your point is correct. You've got, America taking action in a place that's not its
That's
backyard.
a sovereign country.
Yes. And to your point, you've got, decades of a menace that is now off the table.
I would
Maybe.
disagree with that.
Maybe.
Exactly. We don't
Maybe.
know.
Yes.
And the worst part is that in the lead up to this, Iran's relationship with Russia and China and other countries that are successfully countering American influence worldwide had grown closer than ever before. And
I think they're fair weather friends that just turn on them in a second.
What are you concerned about,
Yeah.
Andrew?
So there's a number of things here. So first of all, with the removal of Maduro in Venezuela, which happened less than 60 days ago, and now the assassination of a leader,
The decapitation of the regime.
which was the same thing you did here when you rendered Maduro, right? It's a decapitation of the regime.
That's different. I would say if you're going to, extract someone, you haven't killed them. So that's not decapitation.
That's basically
extraction.
swapping out the CEO. This
Yeah.
is completely reforming the company. Or at least
I
trying
agree
to.
with that
Yeah.
because they were different countries. They operated in different ways. But when you attack the leadership,
Mhm.
when you attack the head of state, that is protected under international law. Because when you do that, you open the gates for everyone.
Of course.
to
What
do
is it?
that.
What is at the heart of your concern? Because it sounds like you're saying that this wasn't the right time to do this, and so what are the unintended consequences that you're foreseeing?
So there is a domino effect that happens with every decision that the United States makes. And now that we have essentially taken this military action against a sovereign country, it opens the door for all sorts of other countries to just unilaterally choose when they're going to take action against another sovereign. We have created more opportunity for more rogue nations, which is a greater abandonment of an international community, which destabilizes our global trade, our economics, our sense of personal security. The Americans are less secure now than they were 4 days ago. They're targeted now more than they were 4 days ago. And if we are coming to the conclusion that we need to make things worse before we can make things better, that's a conversation I guess we can have, the debate we can have. But with the crisis that we have here at home, with the concerns that exist, with the stated priorities.
What crisis here at home?
We have an economic crisis here at home, an immigration crisis here at home.
Get 'em.
We have a crisis of politics here at
Medical
home.
debt,
The United
all
States
that.
is
I would just say it's tribal warfare here at home.
It's
I
bad.
watch it and it's just
It's bad.
very,
Sorry.
very, very dangerous. Keep going.
No. It's just now we have just exacerbated.
And that's my point. We have so many problems here in this country. So many. We don't got time to be. Look, I'm sorry. I'm speaking for the American people here. I know most people feel the way that I do. I know they do. Most people feel the way that I feel. Can we fix what's going on at home? Can we take care of our own people who pay taxes instead of you taking our tax dollars and doing your foreign policy thing? Can we take care of home? Like, we the ones paying taxes, and how the hell we the ones paying taxes over here and we the ones struggling? We the ones that got unhealthy, cancer-causing chemicals in our food, and we pay taxes. We the ones got straddled with that medical debt that could easily be fixed, student loan debt, all that stuff. Like, man, that should be the real conversation for real. It really should. And that's why I'm ultra critical of Trump. Because this guy ran on affordability, making your life easier, making your life better. Well, the polls and the stats show that most people's lives have not gotten better. As a matter of fact, it actually got worse. Life got harder for a lot of people, actually. It didn't get easier, it got harder.
That even more. And we've exacerbated that more with an ally in the Middle East that just got done carrying out one of the most destructive attacks in history against Gaza.
You brought up something. You talk about sovereignty with regards to the January 8th, the violence committed against the protesters. You said that basically it's their own people's self-determination. How does the international community deal with acts of state violence against its own people?
So we have a word for that, and it's called intrastate conflicts.
Okay.
Conflict inside of a state, a civil war.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The international community has no responsibility for stepping into a civil war.
So that was this is a great point. This is the debate that the four Allied powers had at the end of World War II when they were convening the Nuremberg trials. You had this idea that we don't have laws to account for how a country or state treats people within its own sovereign borders. The idea is that Germany could do what Germany did within Germany proper. Forget about occupied Germany. Within its own borders, it could mistreat anybody because that was German law. And the push was that that's not the world we want to live in anymore. We want to live in a world where basically nations cannot do that to people. And that's where the basis of the
Well, North Korea is doing that right now to their own citizens, and nobody's doing anything about it because they have nukes.
Nuremberg tribunals came, and that's where we got international law of war crimes, crimes of aggression, genocide, so on and so forth. So the idea is that just because Iran is sovereign, we sit back and allow them to do that. It wasn't a civil war because one side was fighting with knives, machetes, assault rifles. The other side had spoons, wooden spoon, that kind of thing, right? It was so lopsided. It was such an abuse and a asymmetric battle.
Under the Clinton administration, we chose to not be part of the International Criminal Court. We pulled ourselves out of the very same conclusion that you're talking about.
Yeah, but Nuremberg was not, but there's also the ICJ. There's a UN framework that's independent from the ICC and the Rome Treaty. So all I'm saying is we do have international law that addresses what nations can do to their own people.
And we violated international law by attacking a head of state. So there's no continuity. There's no consistency. We choose to do what we choose to do. We choose to support what we choose to support, and we choose to abandon what we choose to abandon. And how do you make sense in a world like that? How do you predict the future? How do you manage even raising a family? How do you know where you can travel? How do you decide on investments? You can't.
That is a great point. And I think that's a point to be made here, is that there's an absence of the enforcement of law internationally, and it's victor's justice. And the dominant will essentially exercise whatever will they want, the law be damned.
Do you think this is part of what his motivations are linked to his personal legacy? And I say this a lot because I think sometimes you've got to kind of follow the incentive structure, especially of a president that can't be reelected, who has talked a lot about wanting to win the Nobel Peace Prize, although he's probably never said it directly. And it almost looks like a Trump that's thinking about his legacy ahead of time. And one's legacy is going to be determined by the wars you start, the people you take out, the Venezuela situation, the economy seems to be really important to him. Do you think he's motivated more so by his legacy than, say, someone else?
I do believe that we are in a position where this is the first president we've ever had. And I would love to be wrong. Please disagree with me on this. But I think this is the first president we've ever had that's more focused on personal legacy than professional or political legacy. I think he's thinking about Donald Trump and the name Trump and the Trump fortune and the Trump future more.
Guys, I don't think there's not a person in America that would disagree with that. He is absolutely right and spot on with everything that he just said. And I think most people would agree with that. I think most people would 1000% agree with that. He's absolutely right. Spot on. It's true. Now, people have their different reasons for why they voted for him and all that, and that's fine. But yeah, I maintain my opinion that, well, you guys know my thoughts. I think both sides are terrible. You won't catch me voting for any of them. Third party forever. I'm not joking. I'm voting third party for the rest of my life. But besides that, with Trump, in terms of his faults, I do believe the same thing. I think Trump thinks more. I'm not saying that Trump doesn't care about America. I think he does. I really do. I really think he does. I think he's drunk the Kool-Aid. I think he does. But I think he thinks more about his own personal brand more than anything else. Before he thinks about America, he thinks about himself. What will my legacy be? What will my brand be? That's really, in my opinion, what it's all about for him more than anything, is that the brand stays alive, in my opinion. Isn't he 80? Doesn't he turn 80 this year? I think he does. I think Trump's 79. He turns 80 years old this year.
Motivated more so by his legacy than, say, someone else.
I do believe that we are in a position where this is the first president we've ever had. And I would love to be wrong. Please disagree with me on this. But I think this is the first president we've ever had that's more focused on personal legacy than professional or political legacy. I think he's thinking about Donald Trump and the name Trump and the Trump fortune and the Trump future more than he's thinking about the image of him on children's bookmarks as a president of the United States for the rest of the existence of the United States. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't feel like he's motivated by country, by service. He is supposed to be a public servant.
It's not country over party over country. It's brand over country. The Trump brand. Yeah. I would agree with that. Yeah,
I agree.
I've never had a president talking about, I might take Greenland, might go to Venezuela.
He fancies himself a deal maker. He wants a Nobel Peace Prize. He prides himself on the number of wars that he's ended, conflicts that he's solved. I think ideally he would have wanted Iran to end up with a diplomatic solution. He came with terms. I don't think war was a preferred option. I think he would be much happier if there was an agreement that, allowed everything to kind of stay in place. Iran would abide by nuclear restrictions, missile restrictions, proxy restrictions, and then a Trump casino gets built in, Tehran. That would have made him happy. Because that is about the personal. That is about the brand. And it's also, he sees that as benefiting the United States, benefiting the U.S. as global partners in the region. So, but I think a lot of this is personally driven. I would agree.
I also find it quite fascinating that our Prime Minister in the UK, Keir Starmer, is not being asked about any of this stuff ahead of time. I think if we go back a couple of decades, the UK and the US were allies. Now it seems like the US is kind of acting as a lone force in the world. And it's funny because, I watched Keir Starmer come out after the attacks have happened, and he clearly had no idea it was going to happen. Same in Venezuela. Once upon a time, you would have briefed us.
Trump did this in his first term, for those who don't know. So this actually isn't that different from Trump. They were different. I remember this during his first term in like 2019. He was doing all sorts of stuff. He did like strikes and withdrawing troops. He did all sorts of stuff geopolitically, and he didn't let the allies know. Like, I'm talking about like France, the UK, stuff like that. I remember that. So this isn't really all that different for Trump because he did that in his first term.
The president did go to the prime minister about, I think, using Diego Garcia and other bases, and was turned down, if I'm not mistaken, right? So there was some awareness that something was being planned, and the prime minister said that the UK government would have no part in any of that.
What's going on here? What's the macro picture in terms of the declining world order that we once knew, where it wasn't just United States running around doing whatever they liked, and other people might be briefed or asked?
I mean, I'm interested in looking at outcome, and then kind of looking backwards at how we got there. And I'm also very interested in how divided America is, because I really do see it as the greatest weakness. So you can show strength in what just happened, but if you are extremely vulnerable at home, and I'm not talking necessarily about Hezbollah terrorist cells being, activated, which may or may not happen. I'm just talking about the clash of political parties in the United States. And to that end, I often look at the past, and so we're talking about, you mentioned, being friendly and having our allies and I can't help but look at the reaction of the opposing party right now at this action.
All right, guys, this was fun. I said I was going to go for an hour. I went for an hour and 20 minutes. I didn't mean to go that long. I wasn't even going to stream today. So, all right, guys, hopefully you enjoyed the stream. I wanted this to be more so educational. I feel like we got a decent amount of education. I gave my commentary, my takes on some of this stuff, and we got to learn a lot. We got to learn about the beginnings of how the thing with the U.S. and Iran actually goes back to like literally the 1930s, or at least the beginning of Iran, and then it starts in like the 1950s, which is interesting. And then we got to talk about a bunch of other stuff. So I thought it was interesting. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the stream. By the way, I actually recommend it. You guys should check out the full video here. I think you guys should watch it. So what timestamp are we at? We're at like 36 minutes. So go to 36 minutes and start watching from there, so we can all get educated and learn about everything that's going on. I will do another live stream sometime this week. It might even be tomorrow. I typically do live streams whenever there's like a lot to cover. So, yeah, that's really all we got. So, all right, guys, thanks so much for being here. Oh, we got a $2 donation. Hey, that's dope. We got a $2 donation. Thank you so much for the $2, April. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Shout out to the supporters. That's amazing. All right, guys. April, thanks for the $2 donation. Guys, thank you for being here. And yeah, I'm going to go eat dinner and enjoy the rest of my night. And I hope you guys do as well. And yeah, you may or may not see me tomorrow, but you'll definitely see me sometime this week. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.